Now, the greatest misconception continuously and mysteriously perpetuated by modern physics education concerns the apparent emptiness of space, the vacuum, a place devoid of all so-called physical matter. As we'll soon see, the real lesson of general relativity is that space is not truly empty, just as clean air is not truly empty, as we perceive it. What we truly see out there, when we look up at the stars, is space-time, a four-dimensional physical medium that permeates the cosmos, whose curvature, or intrinsic geometry, is manifest to us as the apparent force we call gravitation. While we can also understand the physical nature of the vacuum by way of properties like the zero-point energy, or experiments like the Casimir effect, let's just take, for example, the words of the true master of space-time physics, Albert Einstein, when he said, "According to the general theory of relativity, even empty space, empty in the said sense, has physical qualities, which are characterized mathematically by the components of the gravitational potential." Thus, once again, empty space appears as endowed with physical properties, i.e., no longer as physically empty, as seemed to be the case according to special relativity. One can thus say that the ether is resurrected in the general theory of relativity, though in a more sublimated form. But such an understanding was not contemporary to Einstein, being understood by many a physicist as the theory of ether. For example, Maxwell, upon his discovery of light as electromagnetic waves, said, "The electromagnetic field is that part of space which contains and surrounds bodies in electric and magnetic conditions. It may contain any kind of matter, or we may render it empty of all gross matter. There is always, however, enough matter to receive and transmit the undulations of light and heat, that we are obliged to admit that the undulations are those of ethereal substance." While these scientists and their science has been mysteriously forgotten by professionals and academicians, its history is beautifully accounted for in works like that of E.T. Whittaker. We can understand the geometric contiguous thinking of these physicists by the analogy of a rope. In a rope, we see force as it truly is. If you pull on the rope, it tugs on the other end. Every piece of rope along the rope is also likewise pulled. In this way, force is always transmitted from one intermediary to the next, by way of adjacency, contact, and impact, the transfer of momentum. This is what Einstein called contiguous physics. It is from this geometric principle that ether physicists derive the following reasoning. If waves are the common phase propagations of many coupled oscillators, and light is a wave of electromagnetism, then through what medium do the waves of light propagate? Even when there is no rope for force transmission, in apparently empty space, as in the case of light, the former reasoning strongly compelled most physicists to admit that there must be something there, somehow, that transmitted waves of light, no different than how there must be something there, the ocean, to transmit waves of water as the common phase propagations of the many coupled oscillators of slippery water molecules. In this way, as Einstein showed, even when there is apparently no rope or physical medium to transmit our waves, we can still be sure that there must be, by the geometric principle, some physical medium there, just as the ether physicists suspected all along. This is clear in his later, heavily dismissed work when he said, for example, "But even if these possibilities should mature into genuine theories, we will not be able to do without the ether in theoretical physics, i.e. a continuum, which is equipped with physical properties. For the general theory of relativity, whose basic points of view surely will always maintain, excludes direct distant action. But every contiguous action theory presumes continuous fields, and therefore also the existence of an ether." And, even more specifically, Einstein said, state of the metric tensor equals ether, where the metric tensor is the localized measure of distances and angles, geometry, that lives native to an approximation space, tangent at every point, and equal therewith the real higher dimensional geometric manifold that is spacetime.